What's up, and welcome back to Nowstalgia Pod. Another week of what's going on in pop culture. My name is Pat Sheehan, joined by my co-host Dave Martin Swagger. Dave, on a scale of 1 to 10, how mad are you at Lil Nas X?
I was hoping you would bring that up. Not mad at all. Hashtag Satan shoes, baby. Got that pre-order down and ready, locked in.
I saw Nike was suing the company who made them because they're not actually Nike brand. They just
Oh, okay.
copied their
Well, that
look.
makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently they have real human blood. One drop in there.
Yeah. I mean, sounds like a
Gimmick.
safety issue, but
Yeah.
you know.
um, yeah, the outrage is just so ridiculous. I'm really enjoying the Lil Nas X clapbacks on Twitter. He's
That's
fine
the
though.
thing. He's quite consistent too. It's just the
Mhm.
people that like stopped checking in on Lil Nas X and are now back up to speed are the ones that are surprised. It's like, no, this is little always who he's been. He's a funny guy on Twitter. This is what he does. And again, he raps about lean on Old Town Road. So subject matter is the same.
Yeah,
He's fine.
and
It is
an
what it is.
adultery. It's just like this is who he is. I mean, I think there is something to the idea the holiday video is very much like him dressed up as like action figures and like basically in like a video game. So I can kind of understand why parents might think he's like this, I don't know, like kid friendly rapper. But it's all this. It's just that Old Town Road became such a phenomena that
Yeah.
like literally everyone knew it, including kids, and parents just didn't take the time to, I guess, censor that or address it. I don't
I
know.
mean, this has happened with tons of other songs and
Mhm.
artists. People are just mad. Why? Because he's gay? Because he's black? I don't know. It's happened to people, all these kind of people before. It's going to happen again. I don't know.
Yeah, I just really
It's
appreciated
like,
him
yeah,
frying Caitlyn
he's
Bennett.
great.
That was the best. So, shout out Lil Nas X. Keep making them hits. Also,
Album this summer, what he said.
yeah, these songs are pretty good, pretty catchy. Looking forward to that album. But Dave, if people are listening and they want to hear more Lil Nas X takes in the future, hit that subscribe on YouTube, especially because they're going to want to hear us talk about Black Widow when it comes
Mm,
out in July on streaming. Disney Plus Premier Access. It will now be dropping on July 9th. This is the fourth pushback from May 2020 then
mm,
to November
November.
2020 to this May 2021 and finally
Mhm.
July 9th, 2021. How are you feeling about Black Widow simultaneously being released on streaming?
Yeah, so yeah, it'll be in theaters as well, but with that premiere access. And I mean, I'm disappointed about it for like the industry angle of it all because, and you've seen some commentary, a lot of independent theaters in particular, are quite frustrated with this decision that kind of chops their legs off when they've been pinning a lot of their economic livelihood to a big blockbuster like this, kind of bringing everything back and stabilizing stuff. And we've seen the box office slowly creep forward as Disney or as LA and New York have opened in limited capacity, which are the two biggest movie theater uh, going markets, but it's still nowhere close to where it's been, right? So it's like it's gonna be a while. So that explains they still delayed it 2 months versus putting it on streaming in May, right? Buy more time there, but I feel like it's just a result of Marvel Studios can't afford to keep delaying their Marvel properties, whereas
Mhm.
someone like Universal with Fast Nine and was it MGM with James Bond, No Time to Die. They can keep pushing back and waiting for the most money possible at the box office. They're not like
Right.
beholden to all this other franchise level planning the way Marvel is. And along these lines, Shang Chi pushed back to September. Um, then you got Eternals and Spider Man wrapping out the year. So you got four Marvel movies from July to December, plus the last of the shows for the year. It's a lot of Marvel stuff, and I think they had to shit or get off the pot at this point. And it's unfortunate it's going to come at the sake of the movie theaters. But then again, we are seeing people go to the theaters, and maybe in a few more months, vaccine rollout is hopefully in a really good spot at that point, at least domestically. I wouldn't be surprised to see a pretty robust box office response. um, how that goes overseas, though, remains to be seen because while China's doing great and Godzilla's crushing it over there, Europe is not doing well and has a lot of
Yeah.
lockdowns again, and their vaccine rollout's not as far along as other places. So, there probably will never be a perfect time to restart stuff, but you definitely understand the Marvel decision making. Like they just had to go for it at this point.
Yeah, since so much of Marvel, like you pointed out, is um, based on what comes before it and what comes after it, and the timeline of things. I think it makes sense that this is happening. It definitely is disappointing. Um, I think people like you and I will probably go to the theater as long as we feel safe and comfortable to do so, and by
Yeah,
that point, I assume we will. But a lot of people are just going to buy it at home, and it's definitely going to hurt it a little bit, I think. Um, you know, we've been talking about this. And I want to check your temperature, right? Because I know you're talking about there's no perfect time to do this, but July, maybe like a theater release could be pretty successful. Another major music festival today
hmm.
announced September dates for their festival, Firefly. Do you how are you feeling about these festivals in the fall and just like things being open again?
Yeah, it's kind of nuts, right? It's like
Feels crazy. 6 months.
can't imagine they'd require a vaccine. Like, how could they possibly pull that off anyway? Like enforcing that.
Yeah, I don't know. Uh,
So,
I have to have an app, I
and you
guess.
you can't socially distance at one of those places.
Yeah, I got
Obviously, there's not enough land to socially distance a festival when you also sell enough tickets to make your money back. Like, it's just
right.
not possible.
Hmm.
And also, why would you want to go to a festival and be socially distanced? I want to be in the fucking crowd. That's the point.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah, I
feels
mean,
crazy.
for me, that would really depend on how these variants go, right? Because I'm hoping I
Right.
have the vaccine by then. But if the variant strains are not as big a deal and asymptomatic spread and spread winning the vaccine, we find out a lot more scientific stuff around that. Maybe we could finally get to that kind of stuff. I don't know, but I have a feeling festivals is 2022 still.
Yeah. I think I'm just hopeful for the timeline of things to be safe by the fall because I think that also, in terms of like industry stuff, there's going to be movies that will be released simultaneously. But I think the more we see movies like this be released simultaneously, the more that's going to become the norm. And I don't really want that to be the norm
Yeah,
personally.
yeah, and then there's actually been some positive signs along that front with Regal Cinemas is opening back up. They just straight up shut down the past few months. They're opening back up, and they had a new agreement with it was Universal, who they had a big sticking point. Remember, Universal kind of just destroyed windowing last year with Trolls World Tour, and for 2021 they've been releasing movies after 17 days in the theater, which is obviously a lot less than the traditional 90 days. And I think they agreed to 40 days, 30 days, something like that. So it's more than what it was. And honestly, I think it's pretty reasonable. Like 90 days is kind of antiquated, I think. Like, and most of the box office is made in the very beginning anyway. So that seems good. But we're seeing some rollback, right? And Warner Brothers is definitely like stuck to the point that they're not going to do the simultaneous drop on HBO Max thing after this year. So we're seeing some positive signs that the studios definitely still want movie theaters because they know that's where all the money actually is. So hopeful in that regard. But yeah, I mean, this year you just hope the things that are struggling can survive in the meantime, and audience behavior doesn't change too much, right? That's what we've really been
Hmm.
worried about with all this, day and date streaming stuff.
Man, I really hope so. Um, I'm tired of being in my apartment, put it that way. So, why don't we move forward, though? Dave, the end of today's show, we're going to be talking about the 2021 XXL Freshman Double XL
Mhm.
Freshman List, but we are talking about an album from a 2020 Double XL Freshman 24K Golden
Yes, sir.
Dorado, and it's interesting. I think going into this album for me, um, not knowing a lot about
Hmm.
24K Golden, I
You were
was
in the mood, is what you're saying?
I was like not really sure 100% what to expect. And the first track, I was like, oh, this guy, pretty good rapper. And then it turned into a lot more singing than I expected. And it's funny because I actually think I like him a lot more when he raps than when he sings. And that was just kind of my feel throughout. I thought overall the album was pretty solid and there's some decent moments and features, but yeah, I think just a little too much singing for my liking, especially because I don't know if he's super interesting when he does that. How did you feel about Dorado though?
Yeah, El Dorado, the debut album from 24K Golden, first project since, of course, Mood absolutely exploded last year. A song with Ian Dior, which went number one, approaching a billion streams on Spotify. One of the biggest songs of 2020, and it was a big TikTok song, but just a big straight up radio song in its own regard, huge pop song. And it's funny because if you remember the XXL video we did last year at youtube.com/nostalgiapod, you may recall that I said 24K Golden wasn't ready yet and they should wait a year before picking him. At that point, he had only released his one mixtape, which featured Valentino, his first hit song, and then City of Angels, which is another hit that I like quite a bit. He only had that one project out. I didn't have a whole lot of songs. Mood had not coming out at that point. And I was like, oh, 24 Golden on the radar. Let's watch this guy, pop rap got out of the bay. Let's see what happens. They pick him anyway. And then Mood happens, and I'm like, yes, sometimes they know what they're doing.
Hmm.
And now he's averaging 40 million monthly Spotify listeners through the rest of 2020. It's like, yeah, that's what you call getting in at just the right time.
Yep.
So great job by
They
XXL.
bought that stock at 13 and shot up to
Yes,
300.
this was a GameStop a few months ago for them. And and it's funny again because before the pandemic, the last concert I went to was YBN Corday back when he still went by YBN Corday, and the opening act was 24K Golden. Again, before Mood had come out, and he was actually a lot of fun. He was really lively, and he did a cover of Fetty Wap's Trap Queen, which was hype as fuck, and everybody loved. And
Hmm.
I just thought he was a funny guy, and listen to some of the interviews. He's actually pretty articulate. He's an educated guy and even comes off as kind of like a goofball, I guess. He seems to be pretty smart and strategic, and you can understand like the business strategy of his music career. And if you listen to El Dorado, that definitely shines through because this is very much like focus group. Let's get more pop rap on the radio.
Hmm.
Let's try and find another mood. And I don't know, like City of Angels, I like that. But even his most rapping, he's not like the most barsiest guy ever. So I don't really mind. He's a pop rapper.
Hmm.
But yeah, like the singing stuff when he's leaning a little more Post Malone, uh, not as much for me. But there's some shit that hits here, and you can tell because like he's definitely a label priority. He's got a lot of producers helping, and a lot of good writers. Like this was well done for
Yeah,
what they're going for.
I was gonna say there's there's some moments on here that really stick out, but it's not a lot of times it's not even really him necessarily that I find sticking out. Just like the production and like there's a guitar lick on like Breath Away that is just so catchy. The way it just keeps going over and over. I was like, damn, this is some high level shit right here.
Let's just stop right there. So Breath Away, friend of the show Mike Lennon helped me discern some of the source of the melody there. I think that song is probably the highlight of El Dorado. Catchy as fuck, right? And like that's kind of what his gift is with a song like Moves, even before that City of Angels. Like he has this a knack for melody. And on a song like Breath Away, again, you mentioned that guitar, right? Like that's a really catchy thing. And there's actually another great moment with guitar later on. But on Breath Away, there's a lot of familiar melody. And I think around that 1 minute mark where he says, was it with nothing left to say? With nothing left to say. It's straight up the melody that Dido uses that Stan sampled on Stan.
Wow.
Take my breath away. Obviously, it's a different vocal pitch, but it's the same shit, right?
Hmm.
And there's so many other production choices and songs you can point to that song is similar to. Like even like I think like the rhythm you can feel some Avril Lavigne complicated. Like
Hmm.
there's a lot of like interesting DNA to this, and I think New York Times should do Diary of a Song for this song. That's just me. So yeah, that one I think really shine out for me because you have again like high level, really involved production choices, and then 24K Golden doing what he can do best, which is just kind of flow on that melodic pop rap shit.
Yeah, that song is a total earworm. Really catchy. I played it back immediately. What other tracks stood out to you, or what other moments really did you like?
Yeah, I like 3 2 1 as well because of
Yep.
that guitar, both on the pre-chorus where it's kind of strumming, and then on the actual chorus it like goes even harder. And I'm like, I appreciate like keeping guitars in like mainstream pop.
Hmm.
That's not common anymore.
Yeah, no, that one stood out. I actually even wrote like rock. Like, is this a rock song on this album? Kind of stood out. Um, I thought like Coco was another song
Hmm.
that was pretty
Yeah,
catchy to me, and I
one of
thought
the
him and
singles.
yeah, I thought him and DaBaby sounded pretty good on it. Um, there were moments where he sounded a little bit like MGK to me.
Oh sure,
Just like
new
in his
MGK, right?
yeah, new MGK with like the pop,
Yeah.
emo-ish. And it's a song like Butterflies where he's like really getting at the top end of his range and intentionally, I think, sounding strained on some of his singing. But
Mhm.
hearing that, just like really brought me to MGK right now. Um, I don't know. I guess I thought Company with Future was also okay. Um, Future is Future to me, but I thought his flow on the chorus was really good, and I think that he can really just. I was, I guess, more impressed with those moments of rapping than a lot of his singing. Because I don't know if he's the strongest singer, but he
Yeah,
definitely is able to make a catchy song.
definitely. Yeah, and Coco, I didn't actually notice this for a while, but I really like his rapping on that, like the verses and the flow. Actually, the way he comes into that first verse is actually carbon copy the flow that Little Mosey does on Blueberry Fago. So it's funny that you have one TikTok hit directly leading to the next TikTok hit, Um, and I just want to shout out Empty with Sway Lee as well. I think that's where you can point to some Post Malone comps. Like there's some Sunflower vibes there with the Sway Lee. With Sway Lee, obviously, is the through line.
Yeah, just made me think, when are we gonna get another Ray Shremmerd album?
Oh my god, please, that'd be sick.
Man, that'd
Speaking
be
of
like
festivals,
yeah,
can't wait.
that'd be like a nice like beginning of summer treat for us all. Make
You know
it
they
so.
haven't done like their own lead tour in like years and years. Like the last
That's
time
true.
they toured, they supported Childish Gambino.
Oh wow,
Man,
so that was what,
we
3
need
years
some
ago
Ray
now.
Shremmerd, man.
Yeah,
Let's
we.
open this shit up.
Well, that's it for 24K Golden. Check out the our Nostalgia Best of 2021 playlist. Check the show notes for that.
Check out XXL 2021 freshman predictions coming up. We'll be talking about his buddy Ian Dior.
But we're gonna move on to Vic Mensa, who, to me, as we're talking about someone like 24K Golden, I'm like, that veteran singer, rapper, and I look, he's 27,
Yeah,
like not even that old, but he feels like he's been around forever. I
yeah,
mean,
a lot of
uh,
output. He's got several mixtapes and EPs and albums.
yeah, and I think when we've talked about Vic, I think we usually are like, he's really solid. He's never, I think, touched anything that's like super super top tier,
Yeah,
but he's lyrically very very solid.
yeah. I would say he's been up and down more often than not because he's just changed up what he was trying to do so frequently. And that was actually what was so great about the V tape last summer was that it felt like Vic kind of course correcting and also re-examining his past a little bit. Think of a song like Rebirth, where he kind of poignantly talks about some of the public snafus he's caused on himself, right? So it felt like Vic was in a more interesting direction.
Mhm.
And I think on iTape that's continued to even elevate it on. But yeah, you're
Yeah,
right. For a while, we've just kind of been like, man, ever since Vic popped off damn near 10 years ago, we were really excited about Vic, and I want to be excited again.
did this reignite that excitement for you?
I mean, I respect the hell out of this iTape because it's probably his most consistent lyrical project without question, and he's tackling important subject matter. It doesn't have like my favorite Vic songs, but that's what's so funny about having your favorite Vic songs is they're probably disparate and all over the place on his projects because again he's been so up and down all over the place in what he's been trying to do.
Mhm.
I don't think we have another Say I Didn't on here, which is like perfect Chicago jazz rap. That's probably my favorite Vic song. Like that shit goes. But you get kind of close on this, and he has some shit to say, and I really appreciate that. I think he's there's a lot of keepers on the I tape. It's a short listen, but there's some good shit here.
Yeah, I mean, you have what, 7 tracks, eight
Yeah.
tracks, and I think there's probably half the tracks I think are really really strong. Starting with the second one for me,
Oh,
Victory was a
let's
real
go.
standout, just an absolute banger, dude. Like he flows and is just dropping bars throughout the whole thing.
Hmm.
The beat is incredibly hot and just like goes super hard.
Hmm.
I
Just
listened to it while
Blaze.
running and I was like, oh, we're gonna do this. Okay, I appreciate that. And then later on, like I really liked Musa. I thought that one
Hmm.
was a standout to me. Trying to think, Freedom also I really liked a
Yeah.
lot. Which one stood out to you?
Yeah, so definitely Victory starts it off really hot, and it's like, yeah, man, Vic, he did that 93 Punks Detour. No, no, no. Vic's back for sure on that rap and shit. Just Blaze. I got some Diplomats Cameron vibes on that one, man. I love that shit. Uh, he had my favorite bars are on Victory. They must heard I got my bread up and they know they can't catch up, so now they in a pickle. That's a shy glizzy. Fucking flames. Let's go. Um, and it kind of it carries on with the other tracks, right? Like I think there's so many good moments because like again lyrically he's talking about lots of important stuff. You mentioned Musa, that's a really uplifting song that's about like an incarcerated friend. And then on Freedom, with that Zakari hook, which I think is quite strong, or Zakari bridge, you have more like top level observations. And I think that really comes home on Shelter, of course, where he's talking about disproportionate effects of COVID on the Black community, and of course, police brutality in the face of struggles back home and the government's treatment of the Black experience and all kinds of stuff. I think it's quite specific and pressing and relevant, and it's great to hear. And also, Chance sounds as good as he has in quite a while, so it's great to hear both of them together on a track. Also, bringing Wyclef in on that hook, like that's unexpected, and I think that's a message track that also sounds good because those are good verses.
Yeah. No, I agree. It was really nice to hear Chance come in and sound, I think, thoughtful again.
Yeah,
And, he has this ability sometimes to tap in and just totally like capture the moment. And I agree. I thought Shelter was a strong closer for this. Yeah. I mean, overall, this feels like Vic making meaningful, inspired stuff right now, which is
mhm,
good. I like this lane for him. I'm imagining we're at least going to get a C tape in the future. So it had to at
good
least
point.
finish Vic. So there's probably at least one more. I don't know. What
Sure.
do you want to see from him moving forward? Just more consistency?
Yeah, I think more consistency in what he's trying to do. It's funny on his social media recently, he's been teasing releasing his unreleased album Traffic as an NFT. Of course, NFTs all the rage in the creative space these days. If you don't know, now you know. And that's just funny to me because that was when Vic was truly at his most like couldn't point himself in the right direction so much that he would put out some singles and then just drop the whole idea for the project. Never comes out. You Mad, his song with Kanye, was one of the singles from that album that never came out. And now it definitely feels like Vic has his head on straight and he knows he sees where he wants to go finally. So just keep this going, man. Obviously, I like some more like replayable stuff. Obviously, not every message song is the most fun to listen to back, even if it's important to make. So like obviously I'm gonna always default to stuff like Say I Didn't. But then again, I think Victory has a lot of replayability because that shit just fucking goes. And he also has some really good quotables on that and has some message too. So if you can find a way to do what we always say is really hard to accomplish is bring lyrics and replayability together, you're doing something right.
Absolutely. Real quick on the NFT stuff, SNL this weekend had Jack Harlow on, and another XXL tie-in today, and he uh, appeared in a skit about NFTs where he basically educated through a rap what NFTs were, and I actually thought it was really well done. So if anyone
Cool.
is confused as to what they are, SNL actually did something pretty informative and creative, pretty interesting. So check that out, probably on YouTube somewhere. Why don't we move forward though to a couple of movies before we uh, wrap up with XXL predictions? We're going to be talking about Boogie, the Eddie Huang film.
Huang, I believe.
Huang, my apologies. Um, yeah, this was a film I think we were probably most interested in for the Pop Smoke, the acting debut and kind of his
Final
only,
role.
yeah, only role. Um, and I didn't really know again what to expect from this film. I saw the trailer, which
Yeah.
looked absolutely fire, and
That
I was
that was
like,
the entry point, right? It's like the
yeah,
trailer comes out early 2021. Not only do you see that Pop Smoke is a part of the movie, but the trailer is really fucking compelling.
yeah,
Great music, and you're like, shit, is this another Above the Rim?
right,
Again,
yeah,
Tupac in Above the Rim, very similar subject matter to it, to be honest. You're like, huh, I'm hyped as fuck for Boogie. This looks
mhm,
dope,
yeah.
and that trailer is still really good. And you can't take anything away from the trailer, but unfortunately, the movie doesn't quite hit those levels.
Yeah, and right from the get go, it's pretty interesting, right? Because I think you take the basketball movie stereotype, which is usually a black male who's taken to the sport, and it's like his escape from things going on at home, and you kind of flip that on its head by making the lead character of Asian descent,
Yeah.
um, East Asian, traditional family, and um, I think that is actually probably where I felt like most of the problems with the movie were, is that I feel like they kind of knew what they were trying to say, but didn't always effectively portray it or demonstrate it in the movie. And then sometimes it felt a little bit like too much, or just almost like they the portrayals of some of the things I made me question how true to life some of these things actually are, and I kind of just felt like, I don't know how real this feels. I think some of it definitely is like cultural aspects, play a major factor in the lives of
Mhm.
um, people from Asian cultures. But I think just some of the ways that they characterized it felt a little cartoonish at points. How did you feel about that aspect of the film?
Yeah, and I think that's what's disappointing about it is that you see the bones of what Boogie could have been,
Hmm.
and you see what was attempting to be accomplished. And then when you watch the film and you see a lot of the vagueness and kind of unfortunate consequences that still kind of lead to like otherizing Asians in the space, and it's like clearly that was not the goal, but that's kind of
Hmm.
what you got, and it makes it even more disappointing because Eddie Huang. I don't know if you're how familiar you are with him, but he is definitely an interesting guy because he's like one of those like multi hyphenates, right? Very famous in the food scene. Of course, his memoir "Fresh Off the Boat" was adapted into the successful ABC sitcom with Randall Park and Constance Wu, which ran for I think like 6 seasons. It was a very, very successful show and well liked show. And Eddie actually had an interesting relationship to the show because he thought they almost sanitized his what he was really going for at times, and I think he's come around on it a little bit more, but still you could feel like he okay now this is his directorial debut. He's ready to actually say and tell the story he wanted to tell.
Mhm.
And going into this movie, it seems like he was definitely in that control. His lead character, Boogie, was not originally played by Toa Takahashi. It was played by somebody else. Toa Takahashi was a guy he met playing ball out in California and hired to be his PA after they connected over some time. And next thing you know, he actually cast him instead as Boogie. This is his film debut. And you understand why Toa Takahashi was cast because he can ball. And I
Yeah.
think that's probably one of the best aspects of Boogie is they didn't do the opposite thing where they cast real actors and then just fudge the basketball scenes by like quick cutting and like faking the shots and stuff. For the most part, the action of the basketball is pretty.
It's all right.
I think the half court scenes
Yeah.
a lot of times those are one shot And yeah, it's a lot of dribble handoffs. Like it's a lot of like give and goes and stuff. It's not the most intricate ball, but I still feel like it was kind of modern ball.
Yeah.
And I just appreciate like the attempt to actually like do it the real way. Pop Smoke, another guy who could bring it and actually play a little bit,
Yeah.
you know. Um, and I think, how'd you feel about Teo Takahashi's lead? He's I think right off the bat, both him and Taylor Page's girlfriend character, they're both. I think Taylor's 28 and Taylor's 30 and uh, Takahashi's 28. So like they definitely don't feel like high school age
No.
people right off the jump.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I thought Takahashi was all right for his first role, but you can tell he's not a trained actor.
Yeah, I think that's the thing is the physicality definitely shines through. I mean, he's very handsome dude. He carries himself in this movie, I think, like high school hotshot might. But then I think some of the scenes where he needs to be a little bit more vulnerable or he's really going through it, like the scene between him and Taylor Page when they're about to have sex for the first time and he's feeling really self-conscious. That scene felt
Mhm.
very like not his best work. Or
But I think part of it too is sometimes the writing doesn't do him a lot of favors. Like I was
true.
surprised at how weird some of the scenes he was given were.
Hmm.
Like that sex scene where they're
Yeah.
actually just straight up talking about like stereotypes about Asian genitalia, like right in
Hmm.
the open. But having him, the character, express it, I almost felt was diminishing like the goal of like, yes, she doesn't, not a big deal, doesn't care. And oh, by the way, he measured his dick, it's normal size, so fuck you. But it's like I feel like the way they handled it was almost like a little like juvenile still. I don't know.
Yeah, I think especially like just the way he comes out and says it right there, there definitely could have been some more subtlety. So I agree, the script could have helped him out a little bit more. Or even the scene where he decides to sign the deal to get his father out of jail, but then he finds out he got into St. John's on a full scholarship. Which, first of all, the timing is just like,
It's stiff there.
yeah, it's such a movie like trope. But then like the way he gets like upset, I just was like, I don't know, this just feels like it could have used a more seasoned actor in that moment. But I agree. I think like the he looks like a real ball player for sure when he's out there. I do going back to your point about the basketball stuff. I mean the defense. They do one pick and roll and there's like just no one underneath the rim somehow. I don't know how this happens.
Hey, it's 5 out, man. It's hard to defend.
um, but I think overall he was okay. Um,
Yeah, he's good enough. Like he's not the
yeah,
reason the movie has issues.
no, not. I agree. Did you like Pop Smoke?
I wanted more Pop Smoke,
Yeah,
definitely. I thought he was in the movie way more.
I
um,
know.
but I thought he was good as kind of like the villain because he's not like it's not like he's a killer. He's not like he's like some like you know guy in the streets. He's not Tupac and above the rim. It's a little different. He's just like the rival basketball player character,
Right.
and he's this big boogeyman to Boogie.
Hmm.
And yeah, I thought he was pretty effective at it because he was a charismatic guy. Again, the 50 Cent comparisons really rained through. It's like, man,
Yeah.
just watching Pop Smoke like smile as he like pushes some dude and intimidates them on the court. It's like, yeah, it's so believable, right?
Yeah.
And also, I think his character at the end when he calls Boogie a egg roll was a
Hmm.
also an effective way to like, yeah, like there is some subtle racism on the
Hmm.
basketball court, especially when you're the one Asian guy, which again calls back to how they handled Jeremy Lin right off the bat, right? Basketball movie, Asian basketball player. Oh,
Yeah.
Jeremy Lin's gonna come up, right? Right in like the first 10 minutes, they're like, "Fuck Jeremy Lin, he doesn't speak for everyone," right?
Hmm.
Which I really respected. But for Pop Smoke, uh, I think he's an effective villain. But man, I wanted more. Like I
Yeah.
thought there's a lot of melodrama and family stuff in the film Boogie and has its issues, which we can still keep going into. And in the process, you almost feel like that antagonist that is, uh, what's his name? Uh, and
Melvin.
whatever his the antagonist that Pop Smoke plays.
Oh, the Pop Smoke plays. Sorry.
Mop
Yeah.
was it? Mob?
It's Monk.
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 Yes, like Monk's like aura and presence is almost more affected on Boogie the character because of everyone else like talking up like his dad and stuff, right? And like I wish there were some more scenes like them like running into each other like on the street and stuff. I don't know. Like don't you feel like we could have used a scene like in Goodwill Hunting where they just get in a fight or something?
Yeah, I thought there was gonna be something like that. He was basically that boogeyman character, and like you said, they kind of just made more of the conflict, the family melodrama stuff between Mr. Chin, Miss Chin, and then Melvin, who,
Mhm.
uh, I mean, was there an affair going on there?
They hint at it right early on,
Yeah,
right? It's like he's holding, looks at the wedding ring, she looks down, and I was like, oh wow, she's definitely gonna fuck this dude.
yeah, right. And then I don't
Maybe
know.
she did. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. How did you feel about them kind of harkening back to like the Mr. and Mrs. Chin going to the I don't even know what that woman's
Yeah.
role
Well, I
was.
mean, that was kind of a problem I had with the movie is because right off the bat, and then you end the movie with the two, and you have some interstitials. We're flashing back to like what some fortune teller, some like mystic character.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, later on, there's this whole scene where Boogie apologizes to the coach and I guess a principal or something, and he's on his knees praying or apologizing. But either way, his dad's like talking about respect and honor and family. And it's like, oh man, there's just some annoying Asian culture cliches in this movie, which again really surprised me because you can tell Eddie Huang actually thinks thoughtfully about this stuff and is not just a surface level guy. Like even in the movie, they talk about like the difference between being an Asian American, ABC, Asian born Chinese, and then being someone from China and like how they're different.
Hmm.
And Eddie Huang's character, Uncle Jackie, is like kind of t- expressing these values to Boogie about how the pressure comes from the family because of what they experienced back home and stuff. And it's like you had all these like more high level thoughts, but at the end of the day, you boiled it down to just some basic ass shit.
Hmm.
And those cliches I find really unfortunate.
Yeah, especially because I feel like some of the tension with the family and like the different cultural aspects at play, the father being so focused on like him being successful in this certain
Yeah.
way of like beating Monk, and if you
Yeah.
beat Monk, everything else will follow. And the mom being more realistic, like we have bills to pay, like we need to be successful financially, no matter what how we get there. And like I thought that was actually like an interesting conflict to
Sure.
explore and put him in, and then to kind of harken it back to like you said, like the fortune teller just felt kind of like off-putting in a sense. I just kind of didn't feel like it really added much to the movie. Um, yeah, and especially because he goes to the same one and that his parents went to like 40 years earlier, and
Yeah. It's like
uh,
around the corner.
yeah, I don't know. It's kind of strange.
Movie set in
Like,
Flushing.
well, and couldn't it have just been like a spiritual advisor, in a sense, instead of being like if they had brought some sort of like spirituality aspect in, maybe that would have been an interesting thing. But to have it be like a fortune teller, literally how the person's listed, just felt kind of weird.
Yeah. I mean, just like it just felt like it boiled down to like that Asian mysticism stereotyping. But also, like, was it necessary to the story? I don't think it was. Like,
No.
did we need that like weird backstory about his parents? Because it doesn't really convey that much anyway. Like,
Yeah.
I felt like his dad was really like a stock character at the end of the day. You know?
Yeah, for sure. Um, I'm just sorry. I'm just looking down the character list here. The assistant coach. So the coach Hawkins is Dominic Lombardozzi, who's
Yeah.
from a bunch of things. But Despot. Do you remember the rapper Despot?
No,
No,
I
he
didn't
uh,
recognize him.
he did some stuff with Ratatat, which I think is why I'm like recognizing the name. But he plays the assistant coach, and he's from Flushing, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
He had some funny lines where he's like explaining to the coach what zaddy means and
yeah,
stuff like that. I
that's
think
pretty
that
good.
there's some funny moments with the script, like when Charlemagne the God comes in playing the Georgetown coach randomly, which was a little distracting to me.
Yeah,
Uh, he's like, "It says Taiwanese beer," and then the mom's like, "Oh, it's complicated." I was like, "That was great."
yeah,
Little
that
plug
was pretty good.
there. Then on the other hand, though, like, what'd you feel about? How'd you feel about Boogie's pickup line where he's like, "You have a pretty vagina." It's like, what the fuck? How the fuck would that ever work?
I, dude, literally my jaw dropped, and I was like, are they just like I didn't really understand what the point is. They just trying to say he's brash. He doesn't really have game. I had no idea what they were
Right.
going for there, but yeah, that was terrible. And
Shout
like
out.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just gonna say, like, how does his friend not be like, "What the fuck?" Like,
Yeah.
like, be like, dude, what's wrong with
Oh man. Shout out Taylor Page though. She
you?
plays like the
Yeah,
girlfriend character.
I like her.
We saw her a little bit in Ma Rainey as Chadwick's girlfriend, but
Mhm.
apparently she's really good in the upcoming A24 movie Zola, which was a big
Mm.
Sundance hit in 2020. So we'll be talking about Taylor Page pretty soon, I have to imagine. But yeah, it's just funny that the two Taylors, they're both pushing 30. It's like some amazing Spider-Man shit where Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield are totally not high school age.
Well, funny that you mentioned Spider-Man too, because Jorge Lindenborg Jr., who plays his friend, is in both the
Yeah,
Homecoming ones,
that's
and
right.
I actually thought he got a nice moment. You know, he gets like that nice monologue, like everybody here wants to be you, but we
Mhm.
do your dirty work. So
Yeah.
you can be you. And I was like, okay, well, this is not the most well written, but you know, I'm glad he got a little like
Yeah.
monologue to work with.
I liked his moment to the coach in the locker room. And he's like, I don't know, coach, but I'm here, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. Did you recognize Mike Moe? He plays Melvin. That's the guy who played Bruce Lee in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Oh shit.
I didn't recognize him at all. Obviously, didn't like the different haircut.
I mean, I was like, this guy's super handsome. He's probably been in things I've seen, but I didn't
Right.
even
Yeah.
put that together. That's cool. I actually thought the mom was from something, but I couldn't place her, and it doesn't seem like it's anything I've seen her in. So,
Hmm.
yeah. Any last thoughts on this? I mean, Boogie, I think disappointing, but still kind of fun.
Yeah. So kind of fun for sure. You don't get a lot of basketball movies anyway, so
Yeah.
I like this. But yeah, I mean, that's what's so annoying about it is that you saw that this could have been way better, and a lot of those flaws are just really glaring. Shout out the music. Obviously, got
Yeah. I
a
mean,
lot of New
music's
York
great.
here. Starts off right off the bat with like the credits screens popping up with Jay Electronica's Exhibit C.
Mhm.
So Boogie's walking down the street. That shit went hard. Get Chef G at the end. You get 504 in. You get Pop Smoke a few times. I laughed when the MC at the court, you know, at the stand-in for the Rucker, he uh Monk like makes a dunk or something, and the MC's like, "Welcome to the party." And then later they play Pop Smoke's "Welcome to the Party." I was like, "Oh
Yeah.
man, that's just
Yeah.
like there for the Pop Smoke fans, I guess."
The only music choice I didn't like was again that sexy. Or you know, they have that weird song going on. He kind of keeps going back to it, and then they stick with it after. And I was just like,
Yeah.
it's not working for me. But all right, well, why don't we switch gears to a very different movie, The Father. Finally, we got The Father, Dave. This is the last big Academy Award movie we have to we get to talk about. I shouldn't say have to talk about because I thought this movie was actually quite a pleasure. Directed by Florian Zeller, starring Anthony Hopkins and Olivia Colman, a couple other people that you might recognize, but
Rufus Sewell.
yeah, I mean they're really the movie, these two, and it basically tells a story about a father played by Anthony Hopkins who is dealing with dementia and or Alzheimer's, one of the two. It's never, I guess, explicitly said. I guess here in the
Yeah.
description it says dementia, so I guess maybe they did say it and I just missed it. But and it really explores their relationship, and um, I think what makes this movie stand out is how it mimics or tries to mimic the effects that dementia have on the people who are dealing with it. You know, the movie is very confusing at points and kind of leaves you feeling off balance and not really sure what's real and what's not. And I think I think it's really effective in that sense. And it's really just anchored by the performances of these two, Coleman and
Right.
Hopkins. Uh, I really liked it. How did you feel about the movie?
Yeah, I also liked it quite a bit. This is a movie that had been talked about for a while. It's Sundance 2020, finally out to the public over a year later.
Yeah.
After it's gotten 6 Oscar nominations. Like you really had no chance to see this until right around when the Oscar nominations came out. Like it was playing limited release, but kind of noteworthy to me because this is Florian Zeller's first movie. Because Florian Zeller is really a playwright
Mhm.
and theater figure. He of course wrote the play, made the play this was based on. Uh, Almost 10 years ago at this point, it had already been adapted into a French movie before, and now he gets to adapt his own play. And not only that, but he gets Anthony Hopkins and Olivia Colman. It's like, good job, dude. Like,
Yeah, for real.
way to rise up. And I was really, because like going in, it's like Anthony Hopkins supposed to be really good. He's about dementia. Like, that's really all I knew. I did not know that like the non-linear narrative and unreliable narrator stuff was going to come up. And the movie's actually really great in how it uh, takes any kind of like semblance of certainty from the viewer. Like it just takes all that away, and you really don't know what's real and what's not. And I think it's a marvelous way to try and display something like dementia. And again, theatrical adaptation, we don't really leave these two flat scenes all that much at all. Yet it still felt quite cinematic to me because again, like the way like your
Mhm.
perspective keeps being changed and altered, and what you think what you think is happening, and what you think has already happened, what you think might happen, like you really just don't have a handle on it. And I think it's told in such a great way. And a big part of that, of course, is Anthony Hopkins is tremendous.
Yeah, Anthony Hopkins is throwing 100, and they both have been nominated for their performances.
Yeah.
Hopkins for Best Actor, Coleman for Best Supporting Actress, and uh, completely worthy. I mean, Hopkins throughout this, the range of emotions he goes through, the way he kind of flips from being this charming and witty and funny guy to being just so cutting and angry and closed off is just really really impressive, and ending in I think one of the most like devastating final scenes I can remember in a movie from this past year, where he breaks down and just is calling for his mother. It's
Yeah.
completely heartbreaking throughout.
Yeah, I thought the end was completely devastating, no
Yeah.
question. Um, but again, like, the setup is so good. Like I think early on when he still is still quick, like as he said, I'm an intelligent man. I'm actually quite intelligent.
Mhm.
Like early on, we start, you start learning about how he like forgets that where he puts his watch and stuff, and he's like, oh, I can tell the time. It's 5 o'clock if you're interested. I happen to be interested. And I was like, oh my god,
Mhm.
this is hilarious because Anthony Hopkins, I think he's just such a thespian. He can just sell all this stuff with like little ticks. And
Yeah.
I think one of the best scenes is when Imogen Poots' character comes in as one of the caregivers, who's just like she's an indie staple at this point, and she's really good. The kind of like an understated performance, handling a lot of different emotions as she's kind of going through the ringer and running the gamut with Anthony Hopkins' character Anthony, as he's kind of putting on the charms and also being like stealthy, like really nasty,
Mhm.
and which is again another side of dementia, right? And
Mhm.
uh, there's just a lot of standout moments. I was quite impressed because again, going in knowing it was a stage adaptation about dementia, I didn't think there was a whole lot to really show. Besides, I assumed it would be a good script and good acting, but like the way it handles, I think the linearity and stuff really stands out to me.
Yeah, using Olivia Colman's character's um, decision to move away for herself as like a real detail of confusion throughout, I think is really interesting. From one moment she's telling him that, oh, I'm moving, and if you don't find a caretaker, we're gonna have to, possibly put you into a nursing home, which he gets put in like one of the nicest nursing homes that there ever was. For a
Totally.
nurse to just like sit with someone like that for so long and be that patient is incredible. But and then later on to have her be like, oh no, that's not something I ever mentioned. And just having that detail flip back and forth so often really just keeps you off balance and leaves you feeling like frustrated and confused, and really mimicking, I think, the experience of someone dealing with this illness. And I think Coleman also, you know I remember her a lot of the time for her roles in like Fleabag,
The
and like
favorite.
her, yeah, The Favorite, where she just gets to be like so outwardly bombastic
Yeah,
and
she's a
uh,
ham.
right, exactly, and that's also kind of how she portrays herself in at award shows when she wins. She's very much just like this bubbly uh, person who has a huge personality. She's much more reserved in this, but I think like the scenes that she's like dealing with her embarrassment and confusion and worry and concern and pain is really uh, done so tactfully throughout. And I don't. She doesn't really get a big scene, I wouldn't
Yeah,
say,
I thought she'd be in the movie more, to be
but
honest.
I still think she's really effective. How did you feel about her performance?
Yeah, no, she's really good. I mean, there's because a lot of subtle stuff, right? Where it's like she's
Hmm.
playing off Anthony Hopkins, and you can see her like welling up and becoming upset, and yeah, it's again like there's a lot of devastating scenes in this movie.
Yeah, and I think to add to the confusion, getting the Catherine Ann character Olivia Williams, who I thought they really just like de-aged Olivia Colman at
Yeah,
first.
me
I was
too.
like,
I was like, huh.
they look so similar. It was insane. I thought that was really like interesting and well done touch to it all too.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's a lot more to say. It's just
no,
really well done, but super affecting.
yeah. I think the other scene I really liked was that and you don't know it's coming until it's basically already happened, where it's like Anthony goes through a whole loop where he watches Rufus Sewell and Olivia Colman talk about how he's ill and you have to put him in a home, and like
Hmm.
you see him go through this whole thing at the dinner table, and then you go back to that same conversation, you hear it from a different perspective, and
Yeah.
it's like oh, again, another really smart touch.
Yeah, no, for sure. Movie's really well done. Go check it out if you can, especially because the Oscars are next month. What, like a month away, pretty much. Dave, it's time for you to unveil your double XL freshman 2021 picks. Um, y- you know these people, and I know some of them. So I'm going to refer to you for most of this. I guess I wanted to start off because there's what, like 40 people who you could choose from or vote for the 10th spot right now
Right,
online. Why don't we start with the people who are locks, who are
right.
definitely making the list?
Yeah, so this is one of the years I'm less confident than others. Like there's been times where we've nailed like 80% of the list. Last year, I think we only got six right. And sometimes again, an artist is a worthy choice and doesn't choose to participate and is left off, such as a Little Tekka last year, right? So like that happens. But generally, you feel like there's some easy to pin down, like they're gonna be there unless they say no. Last year, that was Polo G and Jack Harlow
Hmm.
and Lil TJ. There was a lot of them last year. And this year, I don't think there's as many. Like, there's not a lot of locks. There's a lot of people that are worthy. That's just the way hip hop is these days. That you could make a list of 30 people every year, honestly. But there's a lot of good picks. But there's only a handful of true locks, I think, this year, which is a certain change from the past handful of years.
Hmm. So, what do you make of that? Why do you feel like there's so few real locks this year compared to other
To
years?
to be honest, I think it's COVID because the cover last year came out late. It came out,
Mm,
what was it, August
yep.
2021 or 2020? Usually it's like a May to June thing. You can tell this year they have the 10 spot voting up end of March. They're back on the normal calendar.
Mhm.
So there's just kind of been less time, I guess. And hip hop still moves quick. Um, this is the only genre that could really sustain something like this. But yeah, I think there's just kind of been less time for people to stand out and shine because you think of the people like last year, like Jack Harlow, his music's still popping,
Mhm. Yeah.
um, and everyone else is still going strong from last year. So, and obviously the way COVID works with everything, it's like it's hard to delineate when like the 2021 music year began. So
Right. Right.
that's all it is, I think.
Well, so look, why don't we start with the people who are definitely locked? So, who do you got? Who's definitely
Yeah.
making the list?
So I think definite. This is one of the ones that was pretty evident last year. That'd be 42 Doug, of course, who bust out last year with "We Paid," his song with Little Baby. That was a big hit off the Little Baby deluxe album, one of the true deluxe album highlights. Usually you don't get a lot of those. Usually all deluxe album songs suck these days, but no, not this one. And like if you looked at like best rap songs of the year list, We Paid was pretty universally like top five. Um, and Doug, in his own regard, also had his Two Turn Two mixtape come out, which had a lot of cuts I liked, like album cuts. So and you can tell he's got a lot of features these days. 42 Doug, who signed the Little Baby, he's not going away by any stretch, and he's from Detroit, so he's an easy choice, I would say, and also a good one. I think he's a good rapper.
The 42 Doug we have. So who else is definitely a lock? One name jumps out at me, and I want to talk about it real quick. Oh, I guess maybe there's two, and not for me for them to jump out means that they must be locks. Flo Milli
Yeah.
is one for sure, and the other one is Slow Thigh. Why don't we start with Flo Milli though?
Yeah, so Flo Milli I actually talked about last year because like the Flo Milli wave had really begun, but probably when they were making decisions last year, they'd already made the list, and Flo Milli was just kind of popping. So
Hmm.
wait a year, but she's on the website this year, so you have to figure she's going to get picked unless she says no. And obviously, we talked about her debut mixtape, "Oh Why Is You Here," last summer.
Yep.
Flo Milli, another female MC that kind of more in that Rico nasty, just having fun, I don't give a fuck lane, but also kind of has some of those more Megan rap your ass off qualities, but also funny. I think like Rico, and I mean, the hits speak for themselves, right? Beef Low Mix was the start, and In the Party kept it going. But then after that mixtape came out, there was a lot of songs that stuck around, like That Bitch and
Yep.
Weak and Roaring Twenties. So, and
Hmm.
again, the features have continued. Flo Milli is really just getting started, so she's a great choice.
Yeah, I think we actually might put two of her songs onto our Nostalgia Best of 2020 playlist. So for that to happen means that that album was definitely a strong one. And then how the hell is Slow Tie even on this? Like I
So
saw the name and I thought it was a mistake at first.
same for me. Like I kind of keep little notes of XXL thoughts throughout the year just so I don't forget anyone. And Slow Tie had not crossed my mind at all until I saw it on the website. And I was like, why are we considering Slow Tie a freshman? He has two legit major albums
Hmm.
uh, that were critically well received and very
Yeah.
mainstream. And he's won awards and stuff. And like Nothing Great About Britain, that was 2019. And then
Hmm.
obviously Tyron was early 2021. And he's been in the news a lot. It's not that he's a veteran, but I wouldn't call him a freshman anymore. He's pretty established. And I guess that if you want to represent the UK scene in some hand, like I was trying to look at what other choices there would be out of UK, and if you look on that list, you'd see H is on there, who's been on a lot of projects we've talked about recently, and other than that, I guess like SL is a choice, but there wasn't a lot of like UK drillers or grime stars that I think were really jumping out to me. But still, Slow Tie doesn't feel like a freshman. I feel like there was just no one to pick this year out of the UK.
Yeah. Well, definitely he would be on my list, but
Yeah, I mean,
again, my list is short.
if he better say no or be on the list, there's no other acceptable outcome. You said he was eligible, so now you have to pick him.
You have to. All right. So we have three no doubters. Anyone else that's a no doubter to you?
Unfortunately, no. I think that's really it. If you look at that website, these are the three, and I think part of this is because of I think genre stuff. But these are the three that I think are definite. Um, and there's probably someone who's close. Which let's get into that genre. Actually, no, sorry. There's a fourth. There's a fourth, and that would be Pooh Shiesty. Pooh
Hmm.
Shiesty signed to Gucci Mane, made some noise last year on the Gucci Mane label project, but then dropped his debut mixtape Shicey Season in February of this year. And on that, you had the lead single Back on Blood featuring Lil Durk, which became a huge, huge hit. Like Pooh Shiesty, that song got to number 13 on the Billboard Hot 100. Kind of crazy. And he's huge, kind of out of nowhere to me. And he's on their website, so they're definitely picking him. And of course, only one mixtape out, he's definitely a freshman. So I think he'd be a great choice, even if I don't think he's like the most talented dude. Like he kind of sounds like a Gucci Mane knockoff mixed with some Kodak Black. Like it's not like any trap you haven't heard before. But again, Back on Blood's pretty catchy. I give it to him. So yeah, I think Pusha is actually our fourth lock, and we'll stop him there.
Pooh Shiesty. Oh, anything about the name Pooh? Like what?
I don't think so. His ad lib is a purr. Like it's kind of a knockoff of Gucci and Gucci Mane's burr. It's like
I
it's kind of
like that though.
obvious.
Cool. Okay, so we have four locks. Another name that stood out to me. I want to hear where you're at. CJ, a guy we've talked about a lot recently. Is he making this list?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. There's there's a lot
Ah,
of there's a lot of New York options. Last year, 504 and made it of all the drill guys, and he was the one I most expected to make it because he was the most well known. Even if other drillers like 22Gs and Chef G were more accomplished and have been around a lot longer, but it felt like 5 is the most famous, and he got on. Of course, Pop Smoke would have made it last year if he had not passed.
Mhm.
And now you look at the list, and there's a lot of other options once again on that website. And CJ is the most famous and well known of those, of course. Whoop Dee
Whoop-dee.
got the
Yeah.
10. That's the highest charting UK drill song ever. Charted higher than any pop songs when Pop was alive. And yet, if you listen to our Loyalty Over Royalty EP review, CJ's debut EP, you can tell we're not exactly fans of CJ because of how blatantly manufactured he comes
Right.
across. On the other hand, you have to feel like CJ's management is gonna get him on this cover, right? Like,
I
how the
was
hell
gonna
would
say.
anybody else beat him to this? Like, if he
Yeah.
wants to be there, he's gonna be there, right?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about how part of his rise to fame is he has connections in the industry, and if those connections have helped him get this far, I don't see why they would stop at this point. You know.
Right. Yeah. So he's
So
my pick for the New Yorkers. I guess yeah, it's basically a lock. I guess it's like if he says if he wants to do it, he's gonna be there. But there are other options, right, from New York. Sleepy Hollow, who we reviewed last year, buddies with Chef G.
mhm.
Deep End Freestyle is TikTok hit. I actually think he's really good, so I would like to pick him. But there's some other ones that are actually newer, like more exciting guys who are on that list too. Busy Banks had one mixtape out last year, like the song Top Five. He's probably the most exciting brand new person in like the Brooklyn drill space. So he would be an inspired choice, but again, I can't see them picking Busy Banks over CJ. Also along those lines is Dusty Locane, who I wouldn't pick because he literally only has 4 songs out, but one of those songs is on Rap Caviar and is a
Hmm.
big hit, rolling and control and freestyle. So it's like it's funny to see how fast some of these people rise. Again, Dusty Locane's got 4 songs out and he's already signed, and or they're already pushing one of his songs and it's working, you know. But
Yeah.
again, like it's gonna be CJ from New York. You got to figure.
So as I'm looking through, I'm seeing some very interesting aesthetics here, right? And especially it seems like from Atlanta and Florida, there's this like
Mhm.
almost like emo-ish vibe to some of these people. You know, like I'm looking here at Note Marcato, who his face is like painted like a skull.
Sure.
Um, Metro Mars from Atlanta has like a very like I don't know sleek emo-ish
Mhm.
vibe, and then Mario Judah also has this very like
Yeah.
hardcore look. What's the deal with them? Any of them making it?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. You look on that list, you see Mario Judah, you see the Kid Leroy, you see Ian Dior. These are all guys. They don't really rap. Like Ian Dior's kind of close. And Kid Leroy is like a Juice World knockoff. I think it's like almost offensive how much he just bites what Juice World was doing. And Mario Judah actually got a lot of accolades and fans because he was doing the Playboy Cardi baby voice shit and kind of delivering. Like he released an EP called Whole Lotta Red last December before Playboy Cardi's Whole Lotta Red actually came out. That
Mm,
was kind of biting the Cardi stuff. And it's like, there's a place for this, and it's like hip hop adjacent, and they've picked artists like this before, like Trippy Red. He raps, but he
right.
also does a lot of not rapping too. But when they picked him, he did a fair amount of rapping.
24K Golden.
24K Golden last year, same way. But that's just almost like that's more like conventional, just kind of like
Hmm.
pop rap stuff.
Yeah.
These guys, like, I mean, you're really pushing the boundaries of what you call hip hop to me.
Hmm.
Of those guys, I think Ian Dior is an obvious choice, of course. Mood, #1 song,
Hmm.
huge track in 2020. And he's also had a lot of other hits, and he's put out a lot of music. And when I first heard Ian Dior before Mood came out, the star power was so evident because that guy just has sticky ass melodies and just a real touch for like delivering on stuff. And it made sense that Mood came so fast, right? And of course, his features a big part of that song. But again, like, does he belong on a list like this? I don't know. I mean, you think way back, they put Ty Dolla Sign on XXL like 8 years ago, and
Okay.
he never was a rapper in the first place, but he
No.
was still very much rap adjacent as like an R&B singer, you know.
Right.
So now
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe this is kind of the evolution of like melody and poppiness is just such a big part of hip hop these days, and is almost becoming more of the center. But some of these dudes, man, I just don't know if they even call themselves rappers, you know?
Yeah, Mario Judah, you sent me a couple of tracks, and I
Yeah,
was like, oh, he sounds like the hip hop Cody in Cambria, basically. Great
sure.
vocals, but
Listen to Dive. Yeah, and I actually think it's pretty interesting sometimes. He's
yeah,
got some bad songs, but he also got some cool songs, like Die Very Rough in particular. And listen to his cover of DaBaby's Rockstar, and it's like, oh, that shit fucking goes, you know?
yeah,
But he's trying to do the Rockstar shit. I don't know if he's trying to be a rapper, you know?
right. So, are you putting Ian Dior on your
I'll put
list?
Ian Dior on there. Yeah, they put him on their list, so they're counting him. So we should count him too. So yeah, Ian Dior is definitely like they'll offer it to him, and either he says yes or he doesn't. You know, he had a lot of songs, but he hasn't put anything really out new since Mood came out. So I guess you could consider this like the entry point to him, and like still give him that freshman status. He's still really young. So yeah, I'd pick Ian Dior of these guys for sure.
So, who else you got? I think we got
Yeah,
about 5 or 6 at this point.
right. So I think those are like all like the big names. And again, that kind of speaks to this year where now we're getting to people that have qualities and credentials, but a lot of times we're picking people that are really established already.
Mhm.
And I think that's kind of been an overall thought with how uh, XXL works and functions is should we pick people that are already established and need this kind of marketing and exposure and push, or should you really dig in the crates and find people that are just coming up and you actually put a stamp of quality on? I think XXL has pretty clearly like not gone that route in a long time. So everyone you find here is going to either have a nice body of work or have some like big hit credential or TikTok success or something, right? Like that's
Right.
just the name of the game at this point. So along those lines, there's a lot of people. Um, DDG stands out to me. His song "Moonwalk in Calabasas" really went and really went again when he got that Blueface feature on the remix. Another really good Blueface remix. Think of uh, his song Annalie Choppa last year or 2 years ago, the Shot of Flow one. Um, and this one, like, DDG, he's got 3 projects out now. He just dropped one 2 weeks ago. Nothing else has really stuck besides Moonwalk and Calabasas to this point. So it's kind of one of those picks where it's like, huh, he's got a hit. He's been making some music. Do we pick this dude? And I'd pick him. I like the stuff. And I don't think we need to require multiple hits. So I like him. He's actually got an interesting like come up story. So I think he'd be a pretty solid one. Along those lines, another guy who has like one hit, that'd be Little Easy on a come up big song. You'll see that on Rap Caviar. Put out one EP last year. And in that sense, yeah, he doesn't have a whole lot of music out yet, but he's had something stick.
Mhm.
Let's put him on.
I like
Um,
his hoodie too in that picture.
yeah. So speaking of hoodies, actually one of my favorite picks, who's not a lock, but I think is a really good choice, would be Snot. Snot in all his videos always has a hoodie with the drawstrings scrunched up around his face.
Gotcha. Pulled down.
And he put out 2 projects in 2020. Both he got a bunch of Cole Bennett videos out of that. Like Me, my favorite song features Ian Dior. And I think Snot's cool because he can ride that melody shit and kind of almost sing a little bit like Ian, but he still raps.
Okay.
And I think he's actually exactly what a lot of people want out of hip hop these days, where it's like a lot of melody but still rapping.
Hmm.
And his song Mean with Flo Milli, got a video to that one too. That one's been a hit. You'll see that on Rap Caviar. I think Snot's pretty cool. He's from Florida. And he feels like someone's like just kind of like just scratched the surface of what he can do because he's only just started to get some like mainstream recognition. So I
Okay.
think he'd actually be quite inspired.
That'd be great. I mean, you were talking about how they go about making this list. I think definitely trying to get a good mix in of people who are about to pop off. Like you mentioned, 24K Golden last year, and
Right.
people who are established is probably the way to go. Who else you got?
Yeah, so those are the people I feel most strongly about. And that's the thing about this year. Like, they're not gonna pick everyone I'm going through here, but they're gonna pick most of these people some order. And you look on that website, you'll see a lot of names. We mentioned all the not really rapper people, right? Ian Dior, Mario Judah, the Kid Leroy. Other people like that, I think of Young Blue, his song with Drake, Yours and Mine Still. He's got a bunch of other songs. He's like, again, like his songs are on World Star Hip Hop YouTube channel, but he's like singing like in this like really interesting. He's a really interesting voice, and it's not R&B at all. And it's like hip hop aesthetics while still like doing like singing in his verses. It's very interesting. And like
Mm.
again, a guy who's hip hop adjacent. So I don't fucking know if they pick him. Oh, another guy like that. You love this dude. Stay Solid Rocky, Party Girl, TikTok hit. We weren't a big fan of that EP Fallen last
No.
year. And in general, again, just having a TikTok hit is not enough because a lot of these guys have TikTok hits. That's the way it goes. So you need more, I think. So I don't think Stay Solid Rocky's going to get through there. Another guy like that, Pop Hunter. Obviously, everyone knows his song Corvette, Corvette. Same
Mhm.
thing. Don't think he has enough there, but he did have a few projects last year. Um, I was surprised to see this guy on the XXL website. That'd be Rumor. He's the like country like trap guy who has fuck what are those songs. He has like a lot of those songs. Like he kind of made the noise post Lil Nas X as like a guy bringing like the rapping and singing and stuff. Well, he was singing fuck. He has some interesting songs, but
Yeah.
I don't know if they're actually going to go all the way for him because again, there's a lot of ways to go in terms of not picking non-traditional hip hop here.
I mean, if they're gonna go the country route, I think Mason Ramsey would be an inspired choice, but I don't know if he's even eligible at this point.
Yeah, I don't think they've ever picked Minor before, so he's got time. Um, you know, on that website you'll see someone like Jack Boy. Not really a big fan of him. He seems like a Kodak clone to me. You'll see PP Cocaine, who's kind of like a meme rapper. She has a lot of like viral songs for saying like really weird, like vulgar shit. Kind of like Takashi 69 though, in that she's like a hardcore troll. I don't think they're going to reward that. I saw OMB Peasy on the website, who I've liked for quite a bit. I was surprised to still see him there. He's kind of like NBA YoungBoy, Southern drawl from the streets. That street pain comes out in the lyrics. I actually think he's a little better than YoungBoy, or more consistent anyway. And he'd be a nice choice, but I feel like they passed over him a bunch of times already. Why would they pick him now?
Mm.
Um, and then I've seen other people like who've been making predictions. They mentioned people like Kenny Mason and even Red Veil. I think Red Veil's too young. He's pretty young still. But Kenny Mason, he's the kind of guy who'd be a great choice, but he's just not mainstream enough at all, and it's hard to see the path to him getting picked. Oh, and one other name, it's Coi Leray. Again, another one I struggle with, where it's like she kind of raps, and she also sings a lot, and she's got features from rappers like Lil Durk and Pooh Shiesty recently. But a lot of the recent songs, she's rapping less and less. So it's like, is she one? Then again, she's got a lot of projects out. So I think she's trending towards a safe pick. But again, it really depends how many of these singing types they go with because there's a lot to pick from.
Well, Dave, you've
And
gone through quite a few, so I want to put you on the spot to give us your final predictions.
all right, yeah, we got to get to 10. Okay. Flo Milli, Pooh Shiesty, Slow Tie, CJ, Snot, Ian Dior, Lil Easy, DDG, Coil Ray, and ooh, we need one more, right?
I think you missed
Um,
one of the locks. Who was the first guy you talked about today?
oh, and 42 Doug. Thank
There
you.
you go. Yeah.
Yes. And one other name I should shout out was Duke Deuce, who I mentioned last year. Crunk A Den, everyone knows the meme. Song's a banger. He just released another project, Duke Nukem, great name. That Memphis trying to bring Crunk back. He's a little different, right? Like, again, are they going to pick two Memphis rappers? Because Pooh Shiesty's from Memphis, even though he raps like he's from Atlanta. Um, I like Duke Deuce because he's a little different. He's actually kind of exciting in that regard, and he'd be a nice choice. But I don't know if they're going to go that way. But yeah, again, still a lot to pick from, and this is probably one of the hardest years in a while to kind of get a handle on.
And when should everybody be checking back to see if you got it right?
Yeah, so they just put this out. They usually give it like 2 months or so. So I feel like we're looking at the May or June cover. So stay tuned around then. Probably June.
Hit that subscribe. Nowstalgia on YouTube, youtube.com/nostalgiapod. Dave, tell us what the people should be watching, listening to for next week.
Yeah, so the big one, of course, on Wednesday, HBO Max and Warner Brothers are giving us Godzilla versus Kong, fresh
Oh
off
yeah.
making a nice penny at the China box office. So that's exciting. And we also get the comeback album from Demi Lovato. It's been several years since we've heard those pipes. And there's also a Netflix movie I'm kind of interested in. It's called Concrete Cowboy featuring Idris Elba and a
Hmm.
bunch of other dudes. It's a Western. So I hope that's good.
All right, let's hope it's good. We'll be talking about it. So check in next week and take care of yourselves. Peace out.